Just going to say this for YouTube because every time I talk about Lisa, people get very offended. I never said Lisa didn't love him. I never said that she didn't try to help him with his addiction. I never said anything bad about Lisa. I just tell the truth about Lisa, and people do not like that. I acknowledge Michael Jackson's addiction. I acknowledge that Lisa has trauma. I acknowledge that he was still in love with Diana even through their marriage, and she felt like there was this constant competition through Diana. She said, I have ghosts in my relationship. However, and I'm not excusing Michael's addiction and what he's done ever. I'm just telling you the basis of their relationship. Now I can begin. Named this essay The White Lens versus the Right Lens, Media Exploitation and Privilege. Lisa Marie Presley waited until Michael Jackson was gone for 15 years, and she herself has passed away, may she rest well, to drop the bombshell that MJ was a virgin, which I don't think is true, right? I think that he lost it before her. However, maybe he told her that we weren't in the relationship. However, that still wasn't information for Lisa to share. It was only 3 sentences in her 2024 memoir, From Here to the Great Unknown, which I did read. A lot of you assume I did not read it. But the media ruthlessly weaponized it for cheap clicks, while her daughter Riley published the tapes out of what we call daughter guilt. It makes you deeply question her motives and her loyalty. Riley has openly stated that she loved Michael, which is Lisa Marie's daughter, and she would be furious with her mother every single time they broke up. So it makes no sense why she would choose to expose a man who showed her nothing but genuine love. We have to ask brutally cynical questions, which a lot of you do not. Is fulfilling a dead parent's wish worth completely violating the privacy of a man who can no longer defend himself, especially one who was a loving father figure to you in your own childhood? This entire narrative exposes how the public routinely views their relationship through a white lens instead of the right lens, validating Lisa Marie as well as Riley's perspective while ignoring the broader systematic realities. An objective looks required acknowledging that Michael was a human being dealing with severe addiction, and while dealing with a reality and undoubtedly difficult times, it still did not give them a right to expose his personal life. Her decision, Riley's decision, to speak out anyways highlights a profound lack of accountability and direct violation to his boundaries. The truth is, Lisa Marie's entire narrative around Michael is a masterclass in Hollywood hypocrisy and immense privilege. After their 1996 divorce, she spent years secretly still maintaining an intimate relationship with him. She didn't really get around Paris as much as she was around Prince, only to launch a brutal media rampage from 2003 to 2007 to promote her debut album. Even if she was deeply upset after the divorce because of quickly having children with someone else or whatever happened behind closed door, the sheer scale of the media vindictiveness was unhinged to me. And she went on platforms like Howard Stern, who was horrible, Rolling Stones, which is known to be very racist, calling MJ a master manipulator and shouting that marrying him was the biggest mistake of her life. And you can go check that out, and it's quoted. Those severe, relentless interviews were absolutely crazy, uncalled for, especially considering she instantly flipped the switch as soon as he died in 2009, going to Oprah to cry and recant her bitterness. And one thing people tend to do is also say, oh my God, his family loved her. I think that at one point they respected her because he was his wife, she was his wife. But don't think for a second that a black family was not talking shit about her because you was knocking their family, which was Michael Jackson. And that's why I repeatedly always say I could tell some of you are not in community with us because of how you react and how you defend Lisa Marie. And when I say us, I mean black people. Anyways, she instantly flipped the switch when he died in 2009, going on Oprah to cry and recant her bitterness and reframe him as the tragic love of her life, even though she was married and had to Nicolas Cage, had issues with him, and then married somebody else and had two twin girls, because she had 2 kids before, a boy and a girl, from her Scientologist her Scientologist first husband. Then she was with Michael, didn't have kids with him because she said he had addiction and she took birth control. Then she was with Nicolas Cage, and then she was in another marriage which failed and had a really bad custody battle with her twin girls. In my opinion, it became clear that it was much easier for her to romanticize the ghost than to deal with the real messy reality of their relationship and the addiction, right? The whole dynamic exposes the massive unfair power play between the two. No matter what personal grievances she held, it simply did not give her a right to expose his personal life to a predatory press. Lisa Marie, being a blonde/brown bombshell, blue eyes, princess of rock and roll who always had the ultimate elite escape, hatched the millions, the Presley name, and safety net to retreat to when things got messy. Michael Jackson, as a black man in America, was trapped inside a predatory corporate machine, systematically dehumanized by the press, and the media eagerly handed Lisa Marie the microphone in 2003 because of her racial and social status. And nobody can tell me something different because you don't see it through a whole lens. It gave her instant credibility. She was framed as a rational observer, escaping this freak show that was Michael Jackson, while Michael Jackson was left completely vulnerable to the sharks. And although wasn't perfect, he still had this vulnerability with the sharks because he had no cultural armor. Okay, so ultimately, Lisa's story of the toxic mix of childhood trauma and unchecked status, and Riley choosing to carry the torch of the narrative that makes her complicit in it, I see a problem with that. Yes, Lisa Marie was raised in a controlling Scientology cult because her mother Priscilla allegedly outsourced the parenting out of jealousy and resentment, but trauma and parental duty does not excuse structural privilege to rewrite history, betray a man who was nothing but good to you. And I understand addiction is so hard for especially the people around you, but I also understand when you're in pain and nobody could really help you. So that's just my view on that. Lisa Marie spent her youth shielding and loving Michael and his image. In her 30s, trash-talking him for media clout. And her final years exposing their most intimate bedroom secrets, because I did read the book after he was no longer alive, to grant consent, with her daughter finishing the job because it didn't need to be released. She didn't even finish the book when she passed away, okay? So while I do hold this big space of empathy as a woman to woman for Lisa, and I know to exist in genuine trauma she had, and she survived. The echo chambers of TikTok, Reddit, and across the internet refused to look at her past, and they looked at her point of view through a singular lens. Fans of Elvis Presley legacy blindly defend her in every book like her book was absolute gospel. By doing so, they remain closed off to heavy racial, systematic, and moral contradictions that define how she treated Michael Jackson's legacy, which was not gentle.